From the same entry point, I would like to go into the temporal hollow, so especially this area. Now, as you can see, this is where the superficial temporal artery is running. So this, of course, is to be avoided. Also, I want to make sure that if he's chewing, you see the definition of the muscle. And therefore, I would like to inject it either inside or underneath the muscle. Now, if you inject inside the muscle, it is going to be painful for a few days on mastication. So ideally, you would take a cannula and go through the deep temporal fascia underneath the temporalis muscle and inject it in between the muscle and the periosteum. Let me feel, where is that edge of the temporal crest? So that's over here. And so from here, I would like to go in with my anesthesia, and I go straight down to the periosteum. And I start to inject to give a little bit of space. And this is exactly the direction I want to follow. I have to remember this direction. Okay. Relax. So with a 23 gauge needle, it is sometimes difficult to get exactly through that fascia. So I'm using a 23 gauge needle to make a pre-hole in the fascia, in the deep temporal fascia. Now this is the direction I want to remember, because that will be the direction for my cannula. It's a 23 gauge needle and a 25 gauge cannula. So this would be the direction. And then I feel my cannulas getting through. Now I'm through, and I'm just in between the muscle and the periosteum. So I keep some pressure to prevent the product from migrating inferiorly. And I give small boluses of about 0.05 or less. Advance a bit more. The reason that I want to give small boluses is just to make sure that even though we are using a cannula, in the very unlikely event that the cannula would be intravascular, then there would be no risk, or the least risk, of, let's say, retinal occlusion. So micro boluses of about 0.05 each. So other side. So from here, I want to go to the periosteum, and so also want to find the direction for my needle and for my cannula. I give it a little bit of anesthesia now. Here we go. This would probably be the right direction. It's almost straight down. So from here I introduce, I'm not touching the skin, because if I touch the skin, I move the opening in the skin relative to the opening in the deep temporal fascia. So an alternative to trying to get the cannula through a pre-hole in the deep temporal fascia that you previously made with a needle. You could also use a needle for an intravenous drip, and then use just the tube to advance the cannula through that little plastic tube. And so what we have to do is really go at the area. We've already, of course, have anesthetized this area, but just lateral to the temporal crest, I need to go in. And so just over here, I want to go through the deep temporal fascia, go down to the periosteum. I feel that needle sliding over the periosteum just now. Okay, advance it just a little bit further, and that's it. Now I take out the needle itself, and the tube remains in place. Now, of course, this is too long for a cannula to go through. So what I want to do is I want to cut a piece of that tube, even a bit shorter. And then I have a very easy access to the periosteal space. And as you can see, I cut it in a little bit of an angle, so it becomes easier for me to introduce that cannula. So right now I feel the periosteum, and I kind of advance it over the periosteum. There's no anesthesia there, so I start to inject some calcium hydroxylepatide, and that will anesthetize that area. Of course, you have to be careful not to advance it too far, because then you might push that little plastic tube in too far. It's going to be difficult to take it out. So multiple boluses of approximately 0.05 will do. And then, if I'm satisfied, which I am, I can take out the little tube. And as you can see, it was only quite small.